Hello, and welcome back. My name is Katie Sill, and I am the Academic Advisor for the University of Alaska Southeast Sitka campus. Some of you may already know this, but during the spring of 2022, I teamed up with our local radio station KIFW to produce a talk show about our university. On this episode, I sat down with Dr. Sarah Tomzuk to discuss her new course called Mindful Learning. Along the way, we also touched on topics of belonging, feeling overwhelmed, and the role she and I play as employees of the university to support students. Let's not waste any more time. Here's Sarah.
I'm Sarah Tomzuk, and I am the Term Assistant Professor of Support Services here at the Sitka campus. And before that, I got my master's and doctoral degrees in sociology from the University of Washington in Seattle. And I was the first woman in my family to earn a college degree, actually. So I'm really glad to be here in Sitka working with you.
A little bit about the show, for those of you who are new. This program is designed to help expand upon the opportunities that higher education can provide for individuals, students-to-be, and maybe try to dispel some myths about what college really entails for people. Sarah, what are some of the myths that you're familiar with, having explored college at different stages of your life?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I find that for a lot of folks, they have some kind of idea of what college is before they get there, and that they can be myths that they soon find out or over time find out are not actually the way they are. College can be intimidating, especially for those who have never taken a college course before. And that can be true. But where the myth lies is that no one will help you if things get tough for you.
So is that your number one myth, that once you get into college, you're completely on your own, you have to sink or swim, figure it out, and if you can't figure it out, then college is not a good spot for you?
I think that is one of the bigger assumptions about college, that no one's going to help you. You're going to have to do this on your own. And I can say from my experience that those of us that work, especially at the Sitka campus, but at other institutions as well, we really want to see our students succeed. And we want it to be a place where they feel and know that they belong there. And so no one wants to throw you in the deep end and watch you sink. That's not the point. And that's not why so many of us pursued careers in higher education.
Just take me, for example. I'm an academic advisor. If I didn't have students calling me and asking me for help, then I would have very little to do. There are just so many different support services available for students to help them navigate higher education. There's academic advisors who can help you figure out what classes you need to take in order to stay on track and graduate. And then there's disability services for people who need accommodations. Maybe they have a learning disability or anxiety that prevent them from performing at the best of their abilities. And that's just like off the top of my head. Can you think of any other support services that we might introduce to students today?
I think what I would like to share is that as a professor, I really want the students in my class to do well and to pass and to make it through and to really learn, most importantly. And so if you've ever had somebody tell you, your professor's not going to be able to explain this to you, or your college teachers aren't going to be interested in taking things slow, I can say that is absolutely not the case for myself or for my excellent colleagues at the University of Alaska Southeast. We want you to tell us when something is confusing. We want you to reach out to us and say, I'm having trouble with this interface online, or I don't understand this assignment. Let's talk through that together. We're really dedicated to our students.
And there's no instructor that I can think of who specifically goes out of their way to design assignments that they're intending students to fail. It doesn't achieve any of the goals that the instructor has in order to be able to convey the information they need the students to learn. And plus, when a student is succeeding and thriving in a course, it's a real rush for the teacher to be able to say, yes, you get it. And I'm here with you, and you're finding the things that I'm putting down exciting and interesting.
Yes, your successes as a student are our successes as instructors, and We want to know the pitfalls as well as the great new inspirational ideas that our students have. I am so excited that I've been able to design and teach for the first time last semester and continuing this semester a course called Mindful Learning. And what's exciting about this course is that we get to explore and have the space to reflect on all the different styles and modes and approaches to learning, and do this in a reflective atmosphere where every single student is coming with their previous experiences, be that in high school or out in the workforce or even just in their families and the roles they play in their families. All of those are learning experiences, actually, and you can, when you have the space to do so, like in Mindful Learning, reflect on how you have strengths in those different areas of your life and think about ways to bring those strengths from learning in non-institutional settings, like in your family and in your community, to success in college, career, anywhere that you want to take your learning.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to believe that learning only happens in a classroom or in a structured, institutionalized framework. And what you're presenting is an alternative way to think about learning in your class, where really the students are coming to the conversation already experts on how they themselves learn or the kinds of things that they have learned, and they're able to share it on a platform that is not intimidating, because if everybody in the room is an expert, then really there's not a lot of competition to be the smartest person in the room. And
yes, absolutely. And thanks for saying that, Katie. I really love this idea that we are each an expert in our own experience. And so when you have this shared space to think about how the learning that you've done in your family, when you learn from your grandmother how to make dumplings, or when you learn how to garden in your backyard, then when you have the space to share, this is how I learn well in those situations. I like to watch it being done first, and then I like to have the person walk me through it as I do it in a hands-on kind of way. Well, you can take that insight to your algebra course or to your writing course. That's good information to have about yourself. It's a mindful moment where you reflect on how learning has been meaningful to you in the past, and how you can then bring that to whatever the next learning experience is that you'll have. And importantly, you're not just doing this on your own, you're doing this in conversation with other diverse students, some of whom may be taking their very first college course, some who maybe had some experience in taking college courses and are now returning. And we benefit from listening and learning and sharing with each other.
And I feel like this is true from my experience at UAS as well, is we get students from all walks of life and all kinds of backgrounds. We have high school students who are still in high school and not sure if college is the right choice for them, or high school students who have been born and raised knowing that they were going to go to college, and it's just a matter of which college is a good fit for them. But then we also have adult learners who, for one reason or another, went straight into the workforce, have a family. Having that bunch of students in the same space to be able to bring together their life experiences and what they know, and to kind of empower each other to speak on how they are experts is really great, because I feel like there are some elements of those student populations that maybe were discounted in the past, and maybe commonplace misunderstanding is that kind of student is not right for college. And that's just another myth.
Yeah, it brings me back to this idea of belonging. I truly believe that all of those students, if they want to be there, they belong in college and they belong at UAS. And so what's great about the content in Mindful Learning is that, sure, we're engaging with ideas from neuroscience about the way the brain works, or from the scholarship in teaching and learning, education research, or ideas from essays on incorporating Indigenous wisdom and Indigenous knowledge in science. We're learning about those things together, which might be new to some of us or new to all of us, But then each of our own experiences and reflections, we can bring that to the table, and all those experiences are valid and we can all learn from each other.
I want to focus in on a key term that you mentioned. Why is belonging such an important thing for higher education, college students, or really anybody?
Yes. So when we really feel like we belong somewhere, if I know that I belong in a space, then I can always be looking for ways to be more involved and connected. I feel connected to the other people, to that space, to the college, for example. But if I feel like I don't belong, I might encounter any kind of challenge, any kind of obstacle as confirmation that no, I never really belonged here in the first place. In some ways, it's like I always have one foot out the door. I'm always looking for that reason why I don't belong. On the other hand, when you have that sense of belonging, you can face those obstacles. You know to ask for help because that's just an obstacle. It's not proof that you don't belong there because you already know that you do.
When you talk about the importance of belonging, it makes me think about being a part of a team. And those of us who have a spot on the team and we have a role to play. I played soccer, so I was a goalkeeper. It's just like I knew that we couldn't play the game successfully if I wasn't there. And if I didn't show up to practices or if I didn't show up to games, then I'd be letting my team down. And I kind of feel that that's a similar experience that we try to build at the university level, but in different kinds of groups. So you have the sense of belonging to your major area of study. You have the sense of belonging to individual classes and the connections you make with your professors. But then there's also the idea of belonging to the institution as a whole. You see a lot of school pride, and the love that students have for their institution really shows how powerful belonging can be.
I like that you used the metaphor of a team too, because it helps me to circle back to this theme of you have a role to play on the team, but there are other members on the team as well. So Katie's on your team when you're a student at UAS. I'm on your team if you're a student at UAS, and especially if you're in my mindful learning course. And so let us do our role. Let us do our job on the team. When you encounter that obstacle, don't suffer in silence. Reach out. Let us do our jobs. Let us fulfill our role on your team.
One of the examples that I have in mind when you're speaking about students who maybe choose to suffer in silence or feel like asking for help is being a bother or a burden. I have a student that I've worked with in the past who, when she was telling me about the personal life obstacles that she was encountering that were ultimately leading to her withdrawing from the class, she kept apologizing to me and saying, "I'm so sorry because I've let you down. You've done so much work for me. The professor probably hates me because I've caused so much trouble, and, I'm so sorry. I'm such a disappointment." And I had to really push back on that because it's like, no, life happens. We are not disappointed in you. We are understanding that you are a human going through a difficult time, and we will be here to support you however we can. And if it means that you need to take time away to regroup and center yourself and then come back when you're in a better place, then we will be here to welcome you back.
I'd like to share that I've only been in my position at the university for about 1 year, but the impression I have of my colleagues is that we are so understanding and invested in students and aware that students are whole people. We don't imagine students to be robots that never have a bad day or never get sick or that don't encounter obstacles. It's quite the opposite. We see our students as whole people who have lives and families and sometimes jobs outside of the university setting. And I think that's a good reminder when students encounter those obstacles that they could make you feel like you don't belong, or you could take that opportunity to call on the community that is the University of Alaska Southeast.
Yes, and a lot of times these students who reach this point are feeling overwhelmed because they're encountering things that they just don't know. And there's a lot of learning that goes into navigating higher education beyond the knowledge that you're supposed to get out of your classes. It's one of those situations that I tell students, like, How are you supposed to know that? How are you expected to know something that you've never been taught or you've never encountered before? And so don't put so much pressure on yourself to know everything right away.
Katie, have you ever had the feeling of being new in a place? I think we've all had this experience at one time or another when we're not sure how things work in a new environment.
When I got to my undergraduate university, Illinois Wesleyan, my soccer coach told me that he was going to meet me on the quad. He's like, I'll meet you on the quad at noon. And I was like, great. Where is that? Thinking that it was a building. And he's just like, oh, it's just this open grassy area in between all of the school buildings. And I was like, okay, how was I supposed to know that? I think back on that moment of just feeling dumb because I was expected to know something that was just commonplace. And it became part of my commonplace knowledge the longer I stayed there and the more into the community I became. But it was just that first month of being a first-year college student, new environment, new people, new expectations, that I really remember feeling like I am dumber than I thought. And over time, I realized, no, how was I supposed to know any of that? If nobody ever told me or nobody ever taught me, then you can't hold me to that standard of common sense because it didn't exist before, and I learned it and now I'm better for it.
And you were just new.
Mm-hmm.
You were just still learning.
Right. We're going to circle back a little bit to your class in particular. Can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly the students do in this class?
Yes, absolutely. It's such a special course. It's only 1 credit, so that's important to note. So it's not the same as taking an entire writing course or an entire 3-credit course. And what we do is there are several modules, each module with a different theme. And it's more than just study skills. It's these insights into how our brain actually works, how our values and our culture have affected perhaps the way we learn and what's important to us. It's all of these themes related to learning and knowing. And what we actually do is engage with some material online, and then there's opportunities to exchange based on your reflection, your reaction to that material. So there are discussion boards, there are interactive videos, and what's so special about this course is that it's completely asynchronous and flexible to your schedule.
And that's where our recording cut out. Bit of bad luck for us, but hopefully we can get it fixed for next week. In the meantime, thank you all so much for listening. If you would like to know more, please feel free to reach out. My name is Katie Sill, and my contact information is on the University of Alaska's Southeast website. That's uas.alaska.edu. Next time, you and I will learn a little more about aquaculture and mariculture, as well as the role these industries will soon play in Southeast Alaska. So stay tuned, and we'll talk to you again soon.